Welcome back to Golf Xtra. Perhaps no other player was more talked about in the wake of the news of the shocking merger agreement between LIV Golf and the PGA Tour than Rory McIlroy. McIlroy, the staunchest defender of the PGA Tour during the lengthy battle between the two rival golf entities, seemed to be in a difficult position now, having to get into close ties with the organization that he had previously maligned. However, his new comments show just how much of an effect this merger might have on McIlroy and his future in golf. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Now let's get right into what Rory McIlroy had to say about his future in the proposed PGA LIV entity. After Rory McIlroy was blindsided by the PGA LIV merger agreement when it was announced in early June, the tone of his comments immediately after the announcement were to be expected, with his first statement being, "It's hard for me not to feel like a sacrificial lamb. I put myself out there." And McIlroy did put himself out there, doggedly defending the PGA Tour at nearly every conceivable turn. Still, he knew as much as the next guy, saying, "I learned about it at pretty much the same time that everyone else did. And yeah, it was a surprise. I knew there had been discussions going on in the background. I knew that lines of communication had been opened up. I obviously didn't expect it to happen as quickly as it did." With that being said, he acknowledged that the move was for likely in the best interest of the game of golf going forward, saying, "Removing myself from the situation, I see how this is better for the game of golf. For me as an individual, there's just going to have to be conversations that are had. I've dealt with Jay a lot closer than a lot of those guys have, and from where we were a couple of weeks ago to where we are today, I think the future of the PGA Tour looks brighter as a whole." Still, McIlroy did keep up his animosity for LIV Golf and the former PGA players who defected to it in those initial comments. Of particular concern for him was the potential for the LIV players to simply rejoin the PGA Tour, as he implored the PGA Tour not to show mercy on these players, saying, "We can't just welcome them back in. That's not going to happen." That's what Jay was trying to get across yesterday. What that looks like for individual players in keeping a tour card, bringing players back into the fold, that's where the anger comes from. I understand that, and there still has to be consequences to actions. The people that left the PGA Tour irreparably harmed this tour, started litigation against it. He concluded his comments with a strong statement against LIV, saying, "I still hate LIV. I hate LIV. I hope it goes away, and I fully expect that it does." While McIlroy's feelings on the matter are by this time no secret, it's still a virtual certainty that the agreement and the impending merger that it points toward hinge, at least in part, on McIlroy being a part of whatever golf organization rises out of all of this chaos. After all, the Northern Irishman is still one of the biggest draws in the game, with legions of fans watching his every move. It comes as no surprise, then, that LIV and its backers had a vested interest in including McIlroy in their plans going forward, something that emerged as a fact in Senate subcommittee meetings held in mid-July. During the meetings, documents prepared by LIV Golf Ally PCP Capital Partners showed several proposals which were considered to be the best of both worlds, one of which involved McIlroy. The document read, "LIV is proposing that Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods would own teams and play in at least 10 LIV events. This and the participation of other leading players is subject to further discussions." Given how strong McIlroy had been and his desire not to play with LIV, refusing hundreds of millions of dollars from the Golf League's Saudi Arabia-based backers in order to stay on the PGA Tour, it was expected that his response to this would be quite negative. When asked about it after his opening round of the Scottish Open, McIlroy was even more negative than expected, saying, "If LIV Golf was the last place to play golf on earth, I would retire. That's how I feel about it. I'd play the majors. I'd be pretty comfortable." Whoa, safe to say that McIlroy is not a fan. That leads us to wonder, would there be other players who feel the same? Rory has certainly cemented his career, maybe not as an all-time great, but certainly as an excellent player. So maybe he'd be more willing to walk away than others who have less accomplished resumes. One important thing to keep in mind in all of this is that these proposals, drafted in early April, have since been rejected and won't be included in the final agreement or merger documents, with the source close to the negotiations saying, "It's important to understand that documents released as a part of the Senate hearing included proposals that PIF LIV or their representatives made to the PGA Tour, which were quickly rejected and never put into the framework agreement." Still, the revelations from the Senate hearings are important, given the fact that whatever the new organization might look like, LIV will likely have some involvement, given the amount of money that they are injecting into the venture. Will McIlroy go along with it? That remains to be seen. For now, McIlroy isn't the only player on the PGA Tour who was disheartened by the process of the merger. Scottie Scheffler, one of the game's top players, said in recent weeks, as a player on the PGA Tour, we still don't really have a lot of clarity as to what's going on, and that's a bit worrisome. They keep saying it's a player-run organization, and we don't really have the information that we need. We are not involved in any of the discussions. He also added, regarding the Senate subcommittee hearings, I watched part of the hearings yesterday and didn't learn anything. It really is kind of that cycle where it's just a framework agreement, so I don't know what that entails. Scheffler finished his statement by saying, I just try to keep my head down and play golf. I love playing golf on the PGA Tour, and that's the spot for me. I'm hoping that's going to exist for a long time. I felt like we were doing a good job before, and then the agreement happened, and now we have to navigate the whole deal. Another big name on the PGA Tour, Jordan Spieth, had similar comments, saying, it's a member-run organization with a voluntary board that's supposed to look out for the interest of the PGA Tour players on the board. I don't believe that these decisions had to be made involving players on the board and other board members. Spieth, a former member of the PGA Tour Advisory Board during the pandemic crisis of 2020-2021, didn't envy the board members' position, saying, COVID was enough time for me. I can't say I'm jealous of not being on the board right now. So, McIlroy is far from the only one with mixed feelings about the merger, though none of the other players who we quoted had anything as direct to say about LIV. Still, it's reasonable to assume that some of those other players might also have opinions about their future participation in LIV, especially considering the players of the caliber of Scheffler and Spieth must have certainly received and turned down offers from LIV. Will an agreement and a potential resulting merger really have that large of an effect on the feelings of these players towards participating in LIV's new golf world? McIlroy, for his part, understands the feelings of his fellow players, saying, because I sort of knew what was going on, so I wasn't quite as in the dark as some of the other guys. But yeah, people felt blindsided by it, and I can obviously understand why Jordan and a lot of other guys would feel that way. What isn't understood, though, is how this new golf world might look, and to what level McIlroy and his fellow golfers will participate in it. So, what do you think about McIlroy's comments? Do you think he'll have some degree of involvement with LIV going forward? Be sure to leave us a comment with what you think down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you can watch our latest content updates as soon as they drop. We'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.